This session aligns with the international framework set by UNESCO Convention and ICOMOS charters that underscore accessibility, interpretation, and inclusive heritage management. For example, the ICOMOS Charter on Cultural Tourism highlights the balance between public access and preservation, while the INAIM Charter on Heritage Interpretation calls for inclusivity in connecting diverse audience with heritage sites, together with the UNESCO 1972 World Heritage Convention and the 2003 Intangible Heritage Convention. These frameworks remind that accessibility in heritage is both a right and a shared responsibility. Today, we are fortunate to have leaders in cultural and natural heritage. Each will share innovative approaches to make heritage accessible with a wide audience while preserving its integrity and meaning. This session is structured in two parts. First, cultural heritage, where we all hear how digital tools, design, innovation, and public space management brings cultural sites closer to people. Then we'll move into natural heritage with speakers like Mara Nemela from Dolomites Foundation, exploring how landscape and biodiversity can be made accessible while respecting natural and cultural values. Our speakers, joining us both in person and remotely, will demonstrate that accessibility is about inclusivity, community empowerment, and resilience. When communities engage fully with their heritage, as we saw in the film, we all gain a deeper sense of connection and responsibility. I hope today's discussion will inspire us to rethink how we can make heritage shared resource for all. I would like to ask the speakers in person, and I like to call Yves Ubelman from the Econem, founder of Econem. I would like to ask Richard Harris, urban designer at the Piazza. Welcome. Then Dr. Ang Peu, director of Apsara. Henk van Schaik, ICOMOS Water and Heritage Ambassador. And Professor Marco Napoli at the University of Florence. While you take your seat, I will ask to introduce the first speakers who is online, who is Mr. Boguslav Schmidzin and Kamila Bogusheva. And as I mentioned to all of the speakers, I will introduce them by from the Polytechnic of Lublin. With a sort of question. So, Boguslav and Kamila, your work as heritage experts in Poland has led to the development of digital tools that enhance accessibility in historic spaces. Could you tell us more about these tools and how they contribute to inclusivity in public spaces?
Thanks a lot for this invitation. Do you see the screen? We just shared the screen. Do you see the screen, dear colleagues? Yes. Hello? Yes.
Yes, could you put in presentation mode?
Okay. Again.
Okay.
Just a second.
At the bottom on the right.
On the bottom,
yes, a little bit on the left. That one. Now you just at the bottom on the right, close echo. That one. Perfect.
That's okay. That's okay. Dear colleagues, first of all, we would like to thank for that invitation. We're joining you from Poland, from Lublin, my colleague Dr. Kamila Boguszewska and me, Bogusław Szmygin. We're joining you today because we just started the project which is financed by the Erasmus. And in this project, we created the consortium of a few partners. And as you see on the screen, the topic is inclusivity and accessibility of historic public spaces. And as a part of that work, we are trying to elaborate the approach and also a digital tool which would be useful for that purpose. We decided to create that project because, according to our understanding, the historic public spaces nowadays are a very important part of the heritage. And because of different reasons, the public spaces would be modernized, and it is very important for the heritage people to be part of that process. And because of that, we decided to introduce that topic into the program of the academic courses. And mainly we invited academic partners, but not only. And another point which is important for that project, this is the inclusivity and accessibility. I'm convinced that all of you are familiar with the expression of accessibility. It means the material access to the public spaces, but we also added another component, inclusivity. We're saying about many different immaterial aspects of the access to the historic public spaces. So this is the combination of those two elements, of those two aspects regarding the historic public spaces. We would like to elaborate in 3 years that project. You see the pictures from the first kickoff meeting, which was held in Lublin at our university. As you see, the project partners, these are the Politecnica Lubelska, Fondazione Romualdo Del Bianco from Italy, and we also invited 2 important universities from Ukraine, because nowadays the problem of accessibility would be very, very urgent in Ukraine because of the war. And because of that, we also invited Lviv Polytechnic National University and Kiev National University. We invited partners. They represent the faculties of architecture, so that course will be introduced in those faculty. And also another partner is the University of Granada. And some details will be delivered by Dr. Boguszewska.
Thank you very much. Now I will tell us some technical aspects of our project. As Professor Szmogin said, our project is dedicated to the students. We want to create an innovative higher education program which address to the academic gap in inclusive design for historic urban spaces. During our project, we want to create the products, the tools as MOOCs and digital model platform, which will be a platform for public consultation. About our implementation, we are going to create the materials, and materials will be developed in 2 forms. In traditional ones, a handbook, and in digital form, the MOOC and design consultation platform. These resources will be used in our subject, which we are going to create together with partners from the university and non-academic partners too. Expected results of our project is the implementation of this course at our universities. And what is more, we want to build the awareness of the need for the inclusive design of public space in collaboration with the community at this stage of the project development and after its completion. And the structure of our project is divided into 6 work packages. The most important one are the substantive. So in the work package 3, we are going to create didactic materials for inclusive design. And in work package 4 and 5, we are going to do the digital model of inclusive design of historic public spaces. And of course, we are going to test it in pilot activities.
As my colleague just mentioned, the partner of our project is also Del Bianco Foundation. So if anybody is interested to share your experience regarding that topic or in some form to participate, please contact our friends from Del Bianco Foundations and you will be informed about the progress of the project and about the results. So that's the message from Poland. We were informed that our message should be short. We are, of course, ready for your questions or comments. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you, Boguslav and Kamila. The message arrived very clear and concise, so really thank you. Now I would like to ask our technical support for the microphone. And now I will introduce you Yves Ubelman, who is with us on the stage, architect and founder of Econem. Probably a few words on Econem will be interesting. But Yves, just before that you take the word, I will ask you, as a founder of Econem, you have pioneered the use of technology in heritage conservation, making hard-to-reach sites accessible. Could you share how digital tools like 3D modeling and virtual reconstruction are helping audiences around the world access sites that might be otherwise be out of reach?
So yes.
Is an easy question, I think, for you.
Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me here, and so I just want to give you a look of my work, how I started, and what we are doing today, and it's really a matter of accessibility, because I started in places that are very remote places in Afghanistan here. And I was working at this time with archaeologists, and our role was to make like a high-definition documentation of places that were not really easy to access for experts and specialists from all over the world. So these places, for example, in Afghanistan is south of Kabul. His name is Mesainak. It's a very important archaeological site from the Kushan period. And you can imagine that today is really hard to go. And it's one of the biggest source of knowledge about this place, about this civilization. And this model, we did it in 2010, 2011, 2012. And there is still a researcher from all over the world that continue to work remotely through this 3D model. So the technique is very simple. So we take drones, cameras, scanner laser. We can come on a place for a few hours and then a few days sometime. And then we have like a platform where we can store all the data. So it's not, I'm trying maybe to pass to the second slide. I don't know if it's possible. Yeah, should be. And Holy Land, I don't know what is that. It wasn't really Holy Land, but anyway, we continue to work here. For example, this is in Timbuktu, and since like 15 years, we started to build like 3D library of sites from all over the world. So we first started in the field of science. So the idea was to provide to experts, enough data to study sites that are not easy to access on the ground. And we grow this database up to have so I will maybe go to the next slide, if it's possible. So here it's an example in Timbuktu. So we make like a 3D model of Timbuktu. Now it's quasi impossible for us to go. And we did a lot of interview on the ground, and there now it's accessible online. You have geolocalized interview. You can hear about the know-how of the people, of the builders of this city. So it was about urbanism, architecture, on all the knowledge of the community around, this specific technique of construction. So I'm trying to go forward. And then, so we worked in Syria, in Iraq, and I would like to share an example in Palmyra, when we were just after the massive destruction of the Temple of Bel, and so we did again the numerization of it. There were very few people able to come on the ground. So I know that Munir was there also at the same time, really to assess the massive destruction. So we did again a 3D model to share to the community. And what it was interesting at this time also is using archive image. It was possible to rebuild the temple as it was before, using the same technique of photogrammetry. But turning, the old archive into a 3D model. So this is really new approaches that can help also researcher to access to disappear landscape. It's not only a digital twin of visible and actual heritage, but it is also a way to get directly connected with real data, with real archive, to landscape that already disappeared. So then, so we started working with heritage in danger, and then with all these 3D assets, we started also to work on digital exhibition, because it was for us really something important also to share, not only to the expert, but also to the wide public, this data, because it's so something really difficult for the people to have access to have an idea of the beauty of this cultural heritage. So we partnership with different museums in Paris, in Germany, in US, to build immersive exhibition. So I would love to show you some example of this kind of exhibition, but maybe I'm sorry, I think it's my fault because I came at the very last time with my PowerPoint. But anyway, we develop an activity, a parallel activity, by producing exhibition to raise awareness of the people about this kind of problem. About the disappearance of cultural heritage, and we did. Here Palmyra is arriving on the screen, so maybe I'll try to share. So this was a reconstruction of Palmyra with old picture, and come again Holy Land. So this exhibition, the goal of this exhibition was really to help people being connected with these remote places, and helping also political leader to react against the massive destruction of cultural heritage. Here it's a view of Palmyra. So you see in picture it's Palmyra as it is today. There is a red 3D model behind that is the reconstruct temple we did with the archive before it was destroyed. So I try maybe to go away, and then so started with this digital experiences, where this is a way to rebuild. So the Arch of Palmyra, exactly stone by stone, we were able to rebuild the main arch using the digital technique, and this was a survey of Aleppo, and in Syria just after the massive bombing of Aleppo. And then with this digital exhibition, we were approached also by the most important site in the world, and we started working, with here it's an example of digital exhibition about Aleppo. We did here in Riyadh, we did one in Paris, one in Bonn in Germany, and it was a powerful tool to help people, to understand the beauty and the richness of these countries, but also to help to protect, to convince also political leader to engage themselves, through in the protection of cultural heritage.
I think these are very powerful images, and I think that are very
thank you.
Really interesting.
And I will just finish very quickly with two last projects, because we realized that it was also like for Venice or for Rome, that is like a place where millions of tourists are coming. There is now a new kind of problem of accessibility as well, because it's not possible anymore to see in a good condition, this kind of places. So we partner first with Fondazione dei Musei Civici in Venezia, and the idea was to make like a full 3D model of the city and 3D model as well of the Dutch Palace, so you can see how with this virtual approach you can have a different experience of these places, understand the complexity, understand the sedimentation of this architecture. This is a Dutch palace, so you can make a section, have an idea of really the organization of the place, and from this 3D data we are able to recreate a digital. This is details of painting on the ceiling, and with all this data, we did several exhibitions about Venice that were like very successful, because people, they want to be connected with these details that you cannot see when you visit these places. Last project is it was just the opening yesterday. It was in Rome, so maybe I have some picture of it. It was a full digitalization of St. Peter in Vatican, and we create two exhibition space inside St. Peter with large-scale video mapping to help people to see details of St. Peter. And I don't know if you recently visited the Basilica, but there is hundreds of square meters of mosaics that are so high, because the dome of St. Peter is 140 meters high. So you cannot see even, the details of the figure. So the idea, if we can maybe jump to some images from St. Peter, is really to give to the public a glimpse of these details, and have a new connection, a new accessibility, really, of the artwork of this place. So I'm sorry I was a bit long.
Yes, but it's okay. I think it was worse. Now you can see some images we can show, and I don't know if we can. Okay.
Just the last.
I think that we will thank you, and I think that probably there will be possibility for people to check on Econem website all your great work.
There were a press release yesterday, so we have the last images online over internet. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry for the technical problems.
Now we should have Mr. Marconcini online.
Yes, good morning to everyone. You can hear me?
Yes, we have our director that has to go and put you on the screen. How are you?
Okay, here we are.
Okay. Sebastiano Marconcini is researcher at the Politecnico di Milano. Good morning. And the question for you, Sebastiano, is as a researcher focused on accessibility in heritage sites, your work identifies and removes barriers that prevent people from fully experiencing these spaces. Could you tell us about the specific barriers you have encountered and how your project addresses them to ensure that heritage sites are welcoming and inclusive for all?
Yes, so first of all, good morning to everyone, and sorry for not being there with you. But to answer the question, let's say that there are a lot of architectural barriers that we still face in the built environment. First of all, I also would like to address that I am myself, as you see in this picture, a person with disability, with a physical one, and so I started to work on this topic also in relation to my experience. I think the question is interesting in the sense that, first of all, also we need to understand better what are people needs to understand what kind of barriers we could encounter in the built environment, especially if we speak about cultural heritage. So I will take a step back to introduce this idea of for who we designed for, that is the main element that we have to focus, and both in my experience and as a researcher and as a professional architect that works with municipalities and so on, there is really the idea, limited idea of what for who we designed for. In this sense, also, if we take the Italian history, or more in general the architectural one, we can see that we started designing for the man as the perfect being. So in this sense, even if we move from the Vitruvian Man of Leonardo to Le Corbusier, that open a little bit about the human features and so on. In this sense, here we see that we start with a problem that we only spoke as a man, of man as the perfect human being, already not considering women and so on. So the idea that nowadays we have to design for real people. And when we speak about real people, nowadays there is still a limitation on understanding who are these people, because also over time there was this concept of the barrier-free design, so to work on accessibility, and many times the idea of the disability and accessibility only related to the person on the wheelchair. That is only one small part of of this complex world, let's say, because we have different kind of disabilities, so they are physical, sensorial, cognitive, and many times also we don't have to speak about only disability because, of course, maybe we can find ourselves in temporary condition of limitation, like an injury and so on. Many times when we speak about accessibility. Of course, the first people that recognize the limitation of our cities are the one with the new parents with the stroller with their babies and so on. And also, for example, if we find ourselves in a foreign country where we don't speak the local language and maybe the English is not a common language, it's really difficult also this kind of language interpretation. And so to find a way to communicate. So in this sense, is really important to understand, and is something that even though working in this research field is something that I can say also everything I'm saying can be seen as something very common and very now identified as an important topic. If we go on the outside of the academic environment and other research centers and so on, let's say there are really a lot of difficulties. So we have an important role as designers, as decision makers, but also, and this is a little bit also the focus of my of a couple of examples that I bring at the end of the presentation, that everyone can really work for inclusion. Here I always like this kind of comics that represent situation that our decision show how we can make an environment more or less enabling. Because, for example, in the first comic, you can see that if you imagine a really big bus, anyone will prevent to enter inside of the bus, while the last picture showed that if we design the bus with the proper dimension, with the proper tools, like the ramp, but also the height of the sidewalk and so on. There are different elements that we can intervene on. And so you can see that already I'm not only speaking about the environment, but also the services that we design, in this case about the transport, and many people can be involved in this kind of situation because there are administration for working on the public space, who provide the public transport services and so on. So you can see that there are a lot of possibilities, a lot of people involved. And when we spoke about cultural heritage, we have an additional element of difficulty, because in this sense, what we can say that how cultural heritage can be inclusive. Of course, we have a topic of physical accessibility, so related to the exploitation of the assets of cultural heritage. And in this sense also, I would like to remember that many times we see cultural heritage only as a problem of tourism, but actually we think to Italy, Europe, and many different territories, cultural heritage. Our cities are cultural heritage, so they are the stage of our everyday life. So the many function that we need during days is located inside cultural heritage, so it must be accessible.
Dr. Marconcini,
Yeah.
you have a minute left.
Yes, and then also it's important to work with a conceptual accessibility, so the values, to understand the values of cultural heritage while preserve this this heritage. Of course, we have architectural barrier, but we can see cultural and communication barrier. And so we need a very complex system of action that are not only related to design, and here this scheme represents some of these, and I would like to very quickly show that is important. For example, not always we can manage to work on the physical building. So it's important, for example, social awareness and education. So, for example, here I put an example where I work with local museums to educate people to welcome people with disability, and also it's something that every day everyone can work on. And this is a project very simple, so not really complicated, where we make a social awareness campaign on the bad behavior that many times people have in the country. So to say that everyone really can be an actor in providing inclusion, also with simple action inside our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Marconcini. It's very interesting, and as you said, it's not only a question of there are different kinds of disabilities, and certainly we have to learn a lot to contribute and to work with people with disabilities. Thank you. I hope that you can stay with us a little bit. Now I'll pass the word to Richard Harris, and the question for Richard is the public square are at the heart of communities. How can we preserve their historical character while also restoring their role as a social infrastructure? In your view, what can be done to make these spaces into living monuments and that support civic interaction and openness?
Okay, thank you.
You feel more comfortable?
Because I can see that. And also, yes, a little bit more comfortable. Anyway.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Richard Harris, and I'm going to talk about bringing people back to public spaces. The event is called The World in Florence. The acronym is TWIF. And one day I wanted to look at the website of the event, and I remembered TWIF. So I put TWIF in the little window. So just let me go back. Okay, this is what I found. TWIF is also the acronym of the Tug of War International Federation. Okay. Anyway, in first glance, it seemed like something completely different. But then I looked at it again and remembered what I was going to be talking about. And what this is social infrastructure. It's physical infrastructure because there's a rope and a field and the people together. And then there are the people together who are doing something, which may be team building or it may be fighting each other, but it's two sorts of infrastructure all in one place. And this is my overall theme. Physical places are forms of social infrastructure. This is a rather untidy bit of infrastructure from medieval Europe. People can do anything they want to in public space, but the public space is this for them to do it? I can continue without. Okay. What you're going to see next, what you would see next is a stream of places which are both physical infrastructure and social infrastructure. And the greatest of all these, at least in my sort of cultural history, is the Roman Forum. It was a place, a very physical place, at the heart of the city that served an important purpose. It was the meeting place for the city. There were rules, not everybody could participate, but it was safe, accessible, had good acoustics, so there was something that allowed everyone in the city that was considered a citizen to take part. We've more or less, it's difficult to do this without the slides, but I hope we'll get back to it, we've done away with these public spaces. Public spaces are in fact, we saw in the slide with the architect talking about accessibility, there was either one person or two people in the slide. A person with a pushchair, two people talking to each other. But our great public spaces were there and could still be there for us to meet together. But if you want to use a public square or a corner of a city or a public park, generally, and this is global, you have to go through the bureaucracy. And the bureaucracy begins with the idea that a public meeting is just hassle, because it may not be the meeting that you say it's going to be, or even if it is the meeting you say that it's going to be, people might trip over and break their necks on a cable or whatever, or they might criticize the mayor. But on the whole, it's a lot of different offices. It's the noise abatement people, the lighting people, the security people, whatever. So people don't bother. And what happens is, as a result of this, people have public meetings in private spaces. Can I go forward with the slides? Yes. Okay, so this is perfect timing. This is a Roma Forum. It's physical infrastructure. This is Bologna. This is physical infrastructure, but it's also social infrastructure. The piazza in Bologna has always been a meeting place, but it's also the possibility of having thousands of people in an open space to meet each other. There are lots of forms of physical infrastructure, closed spaces, open spaces, but they're generally owned by a public body that behaves like it's theirs. Okay, just some more physical infrastructure or social infrastructure you can decide. So, the end of all that is a public space is physical and social infrastructure. I've laboured the point. But in all of this, and why am I here today, the public meeting is cultural heritage. The ability of a society to get together and meet and talk to each other is in many cases what makes that society great. And if you take that away from them, that you're going to weaken society. Notice I don't use the word community, because communities are if communities exist, they are subsets of society. And the role of infrastructure, public infrastructure, is to overcome barriers between communities. A British researcher summed this all up with the expression, we can't find common ground if there is no common ground for us to share. Now, one would say, well, in the West, what's the problem? There are plenty of public spaces, people meet all the time. But it turns out it's not really the case, even though most constitutions guarantee two fundamental rights. One is the right to free speech. I can say what I want to today, but I won't say everything. And the right to lawful assembly. We can all meet as we wish to. There are always some regulations about it, but on the whole, people are left in peace. The difficult thing is to do the two things at the same time. If you want to speak freely to a large group of people, or with a large group of people, or amongst a large group of people, actually it turns out to be quite difficult, even though in theory there are constitutional guarantees, particularly as the Constitution may say it, but the management of the spaces is up to the local councils, which are very political. So there's some places where public meetings are encouraged and facilitated, other places where it's very difficult. So, to sum it all up, the use of public space needs regulation and deregulation. We should take away some of the rules, but establish some other rules. So the question is, shouldn't the owners of public space be helping us? Really, that is the end of my analysis. To be straightforward, the question I put back to the administrations is, why don't you do this? Why don't you think about the right of people to use space? I experiment with this, and this is my first experiment. Unfortunately, it began on the 1st of March 2020 when COVID hit. An Italian city gave me the right to use a public space as I wished. They gave me kind of blanket approval for 1 month. So as long as I accepted their rules in who I invited to organize a meeting, they would accept that. From that experience, and the difficulty I had in getting to that, my tool, which I'm not saying it's the only solution, but it's a little bit of a solution, is to create a platform for public space. That is, any administration, any owner that wants to make space available can tell people about it. So Piazza exists. It's not widely used yet because it's difficult to convince councils to want to put the spaces online. But it simply says, you're looking for a meeting in Florence, the Piazza delle Nazioni is available from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock. It costs you €10, but you can't have loud music, whatever it is. And people then can apply for it, but they know what the rules are, they know what the costs are, and they know when it's not worth bothering or when there will be help. So the platform exists, and the idea is that, oh sorry, go back. This is a council website. And there's a little banner saying, if you click on the banner at the top, that will take you to the public spaces available in that location. This is another fake website where, again, there's a banner. You want a public space in my little town, Manciano in Italy, or Bogota, it doesn't matter. I have to be careful I say it's like Airbnb, because Airbnb is very commercial. But it's a simplified process of bringing together the availability of public space and the demand for it. Overall, and these are some of the spaces on the website, the meeting is the message. If you create public space in which meeting with a capital M is not possible, then it's not public space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Actually, I have to say something because not always something that we call piazza or square is the only square we have. Because, for example, I'm living in the Jewish area of Rome, and there is a space that is not a piazza, but is actually part of the Via del Portico d'Ottavia that is used as a piazza, because the different residents, they just have a series of seats. They just move them according to the sun, and they use that as a place to discuss, to meet. But it's not a square, but it is a square. So it's a meeting point. So probably we have to go even over piazza, the concept of piazza. Thank you. Really, thank you. It was very, very interesting. Now I will call and I will ask Dr. Angpu, please. No, please. If you wish, you can stay there. And for you, Thank you for coming and for doing this long travel. As Director of General of Apsara National Authority, you have overseen the conservation efforts at Angkor that supports local community development. Could you share with us how conservation efforts have created opportunities for the local community and how you balance preservation with fostering economic growth and well-being?
Thank you. First of all, I would like first to thank to President for inviting me to join this festival, and also thank to Professor Bushaki for making connection for us to have in the future the cooperation both institution. Thank you. I would like to share following the question that you raised. As you can see from this picture of the title of the presentation, that you can see clearly the connection in between the local community and the heritage that we have. And you can see the activity, I mean the intangible heritage on the side. Before going to the detail, just to give this vision on the side of the path that we have. You can see we are very big World Heritage Site. It's more than 401 square kilometer in 3 regions. And so you can see in the upper part from the satellite image, you can see we have the mountain and the big lake in the south of the side. So you can see the complexity of the site, how we can also assure thousands of the heritage with the living community in that place. So we need to base on the management that we have. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I just take you about the 3 main pillars. You know, we are talking. Yes. So we call the main concept we call temple, environment, and the people. So the 3 pillars we need to thinking about how we can manage those together. I think it's not, as you can see, it's not easy for us to manage the integration of those 3 things together about the temple, environment, I mean the natural resources and the local community. Because the Angkor Park, we have 112 villages living inside the park that we need to help them to preserve the intangible heritage. That you can see clearly. I just take some of the restoration work in the Angkor Park. For the moment, we have 32 places of the restoration. Among 33, we have 27 places working by Apsara Authority that you can see different activity on the restoration of the temple. It continues after 30 years. And we have also the research on the ground. We found always, even you have the right side. It's just last week that we found the new remain archaeological underground, and of course we use the new technology that e-government showing us as well. We have 2 scale working on the big monument and also the scanning remain when we found in underground of the Angkor Heritage Site as well. So on 401 square kilometer. Even we touch underground, we found always the remain archaeological underground. But we cannot avoid because of the development, because of the local community living over there. So we try to find the balance in between. I don't know. The slide. Yes. Just to give you the picture on this part, just to give the cultural landscape that we have, the monument with natural resources, and also the monument with the local community living, and you have some activity that the park should be in this one. We have the technical problem. So, apart from the conservation, you know, we have also the work that we need to manage as the forest and the water management in the whole. I don't know. The slide is not. Okay. Just take back to the community, as you can see from here. You can see in the temple we have also the local people come to make such kind of the intangible heritage, the practice in the temple, and how we can use the temple for different. And you see the picture on the top right. It's one of our royal ballet that has come from the wall of Angkor Wat that you can see the picture on the middle. And we have a lot of activity in the village as well. So it's been in 112 villages inside the Angkor Park. We have also the intangible heritage in their own village, and also application that they bring and they come to do it in the temple area. So the Angkor is the living heritage site. It's not only about the monument, it's not only about the stone of conservation, but the activity we should to bring, to take them, to take care about them. And so we try to balance in between the temple conservation, the natural resources, and the local community. In the same time, we try to give them the benefit from the park, from the visitor, from our conservation, and how we can ask the local community to join. For example, all the working on the ground with the conservation, it's all the people working with us is from the local people in 112 villages. So nowadays we have around 3,000 people working with us on the ground. And on this slide, I would like just to take you to see a little bit the cultural landscape on the village around. You can see the most of the first on the top left picture. It's the picture taken in 2004. And then we have the progress of the evolution in the park area. But as you may consider, when we have a lot of tourists coming in the Angkor Park, we have also the negative impact of the local people come from different province, different area, and they come to, of course, for the tourist activity. But at the same time, you can see when the increasing of the people coming from outside of the park area, it means they bring other new culture to the local community. So it means if we are not working to be careful with the local community will lose their own identity. They will lose intangible heritage linked to the temple, linked to our park. So it is why we are looking very careful to see, and we have all the detail, I mean from 2004 Up to date, we have all, as you can see on the photo from the plan, that the evolution of the first picture to the third picture, that we don't have a lot of change on the village, and we try control how the local people living and try to allow them to have more benefit from what we are doing for the conservation in park. So to prevent the loss of the intangible heritage in Angkor Park, we need also to prevent the people from outside. It's been the illegal people, but we cannot, apply only the law. We cannot apply and push them out without nothing. Even they are illegal to come to install in the park, but we need to find a way how we can help them, because those people are the Cambodian people. And we set up the new place that we call, it's a little bit around 15 kilometers from the park, and we set up the new city for them, and to bring them with the facility of the infrastructure as well as all the service that we have in that area. But just to give you the idea that management of the whole, it's very important to know how the local community can benefit with the tourists to come, and it increases every year. But those people, we must to make sure it's the most of the people living in the local community of 112 village, and less from the outside, because of the negative impact of those people can create a lot of problem of construction inside the park. And as I show you in the second slide, because in the park, when we make the diagnostic, we found always the archaeological remain. So to prevent the intangible heritage and also the artifact underground, we try not to allow the new people coming in the park area, but we try to educate the local community to understand about the value of this park. Just a few pictures to give you the new location that we set up for the new coming people to stay in the new urban area that we developed for. Thank you.
Dr. Pu, thank you. I would like to add, since during my career at ICROM, I've been hearing Monir Bushnaki talking a lot about the experience in Angkor. I would say I would underline that is an important experience in terms of partnership and the international efforts of different countries and different institutions to work for this important result. So I think that has been something that was not only managing the project in itself, but also to work with a lot of people. Is one of the first examples that we have of international collaboration. So really great compliments. And we know that you start from 0 tourists to 3 million. Now how many you have?
Yes, we have, of course, as you mentioned, the professor talking many times, that we have 14 countries working with us for the conservation, but unluckily the slide is not on order. And we have a lot of work since last 32 years in Angkor Park. Yeah. And also we have the problem a lot with the tourist increase. Before the COVID, we arrived around 7 million with the local tourists, and now we start already from after the COVID this year. it will be easily 5 million visitors to come.
I remained at 3 million, so it was some few years ago.
Yeah, but it's increased. It is why, we are working for each temple. We need to know how we can prevent the damage to the temple, but not to disturb the visit of the tourists, to allow them to have the real experience from the concept how the Khmer ancestor built the temple in that area. But we have the possibility to propose to them. But it's other work how the tourists can stay in our park area and to have really the experience from the past and the present how we can do.
Thank you. Now we have heard some fascinating insights on accessibility in cultural heritage. Although the example of Angkor was already paving the path for the natural heritage, because it has been really a big work also on this sense. Exploring the way of technology, inclusivity, and community engagement open up to heritage to different audience. Now let's shift our focus to natural heritage, where we will discuss how natural sites and landscape, from water heritage to mountain ecosystem, are being made accessible while preserving their unique qualities. So I would ask Mr. Henk van Schaik, to ICOMOS Water and Heritage Ambassador, Netherlands, in some ways to see how water-related heritage plays a bit a role in community well-being. And could you share how heritage connected to water resources supports communities, and what strategies are used to protect these invaluable assets? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I'd like to thank the president of the Romualdo Del Bianco Foundation, Madam Carlotta, and I also like to thank very much Simone, the Secretary General, for having invited us to come here. And in addition, I'd like to thank you as audience to listen to me for about 6 minutes. This is an incredible journey. Jules Verne took us around the world in 100 days, but Madame Carlotta and also Simone together, you took us around the world in 3 days. This is an amazing achievement, and I'm so happy that I'm here, including with my wife. We have been walking pilgrimage routes here from Campo del San Piero to Rome, and we also we're so excited to hear there is another one coming from Firenze through Livorno up to Santiago. So we are pilgrims. My pilgrimage started in 1972 as a water engineer, as my neighbor, in Africa. And the slogan or the notion of water in Africa is water is life. It is both natural and it is cultural as civilizations started. So I feel very comfortable to be on the bridge between cultural and natural heritage, that's one. 2, to be on the bridge disciplinary, because there are disciplinary divides between architects, historians, heritage experts, and water people like myself. As I said, I started in Africa working on water for the people, for life in the villages. My camino continued through the diplomacy track, where we are fighting about water between upstream and downstream communities. I went into water and climate at the international level, where we also had the problem, additional problem to water is short, water is too much, and water is dirty. We got the additional problem that the water cycle is changing, which means all our design criteria are becoming obsolete because water is unpredictable more and more. And we saw it in Valencia just a week or two ago. It's threatening heritage. So this is a little bit of my professional background. And then I met this gentleman when I was in the Ministry of Development Cooperation in the Netherlands from India. And he came with this book, Dying Heritage. At the time, I was working on water for people, etc. I didn't really pay attention to this book until in 2012 I met Sir Diederik Six, and I like to also pay homage to him, a restoration architect, the Director General, the President of the Dutch ICOMOS at the time, and he said, Henk, I like to see heritage not only something of the past, not something dying, I like to see that it means something for today. And he appealed to my notion that water is life. There is no split between the past and the present. It's a continuum for people. And we've seen it here in the films. We've heard it by so many of the speakers. And that appealed to me. So instead of me looking forward to the more and more complicated water challenges, which is now added with climate change, he said, let's look back. Let's take what we have and let's listen from it. Not only the material, the structures, but it's also about governance and it is about spiritual. Our life is water. Let's look into these three dimensions. And that's where we started. 2 people. And I knew that my colleagues, when I started talking about heritage, they said, okay, what's the narrative? I knew nothing about heritage. But I asked a question to my colleagues in the heritage world, and now there are many, and I thank you again for giving this opportunity. There are so many people who are now telling me from the water world up to the top level, the UN Sherpa on the UN panel for water and disasters, he is asking me, and he's a good friend of mine from the past, and the former president of Korea, they're all asking, and the empress of Japan, we were in Tokyo with a conference on water and heritage, and they all say, heritage people, what's your narrative? Explain us why it is so important to connect what you know to our agenda. This is a mind-boggling question for me, even up to today. But the question has landed, and there are more and more people, as I said, even up to the top level. We were at the UN last year with our theme, Connecting Past with Present and Future, and the outcome of that meeting was, let's start a platform, disciplinary and also institutionally connecting heritage people with water people. This is a big call. It's a very big call. Today, there will be the decision on the establishment of the ICOMOS Water and Heritage Institutional Scientific Committee. We've been working towards that since 2012 together. Today we expect, and all the signs are on green, that this committee will be established. And the intention is not to consider heritage as something of the past, but to widen it up, to become a matter of life for, and also hope, of course, for the future. That's what we are about. I expect the answer today. That's my hope. Our agenda is to make it an international platform between water institutions and heritage institutions to struggle or to connect or to go forward on connecting. Now, a very clear theme for that is what we heard yesterday with Vladimir when he talked about terraces. The most obvious case where I see connection between past, present, and future is on the terraces. We know what happened in Valencia. When you take away terraces, which are sometimes millennia old, you know the story. And he also showed you some pictures of degraded terraces. And I know that in Petra, for example, in Jordania, they are now rebuilding the terraces because of climate change. We know Subak systems, we know Satuyama systems, we know honey terraces in China, we know in India so many terraces. But the problem is, terraces is not a simple story. It's complicated. Some are water-fed, some are almost dry. There is all sorts of hydrological, topographical, even civil differences. So it is a big call to bring the terrace onto the agenda of water managers. But there is hope, there's always hope, and that is the Water Commission, the Global Water Commission on Economics. They came out with a report 2 weeks ago, and the report says we have to be more serious, and this is the topmost institution at the moment. They came from the Water Conference, the second ever last year in New York. They say in a line, food is about water, and food is also about water harvesting. And they mention terraces as one of the examples where we should become more water conscious. Not only because of the crop per drop, but also because of protection of landscape. So our aim is to go forward on this agenda, connecting disciplines beyond maybe the traditional protection and the conservation agenda of ICOMOS. That's what we are about. Thank you again very much for your invitation, and I'm sure we will have a big future together.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ben Sheikh. We are all waiting for the decision today. They also mentioned to us, we are following. In these days in Ouro Preto, there is the General Assembly of ICOMOS, the annual General Assembly, and among the decision there is also the decision to set up this committee for water and heritage. Now we have the online participation by Mara Nemela, who is director di Fondazione Dolomiten, and is she online?
Entering in this moment.
Yeah. And is she online? Yes, are you there? Okay, buongiorno.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, buongiorno. And,
buongiorno.
Buongiorno. I'm just posing you the question that you know. The Dolomites World Heritage Sites attracts visitors from diverse backgrounds. And as director of the Fondazione Dolomiti, you have focused on accessibility for all abilities. Could you share initiatives you have implemented to achieve this and the challenges you face in balancing conservation with inclusivity?
Oh, okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm just asking if you can share my presentation or if I have to share it by myself.
You share your presentation.
Okay, so just a second. I don't know if you can see it.
Is arriving.
It's arriving. We are waiting for coming.
It's a long distance.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes.
We have on the screen.
So, good morning, everybody. Sorry, I go back to the question, and okay, it's always a great responsibility for a local community to have to be inscribed in a World Heritage List. And our foundation, that is the management body of the World Heritage Site, we are all convinced that this responsibility consists also in giving everyone the opportunity to experience all these outstanding values. So it's very difficult for a natural site to encourage inclusivity. But we want to share with you some of our experiences that in the past years, in order to accompany everybody to discover and experience our territory. I just want to give you short information of our site. That it's a serial site that is shared among 5 provinces, 3 regions, 4 languages, 9 mountain systems, and has an area of 142 hectares of mountain areas. The criteria that are based on the inclusion of the list are the beauty of nature and the importance of the Dolomites for the hard science. Our foundation is established to support territories, to promote and to manage the site and its extraordinary values with using, of course, the management strategy of the whole good. As you can see, I don't know if you can see the pictures of my presentation. The Dolomites are very steep, and the main character of our mountains, it's verticality. So
for the moment we have only the map. If you can go a little bit ahead with your PDF.
I am going ahead. Probably it's a question of.
Okay, probably it's a question of
going wrong.
Eccolo. Now, yes, now we have.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what's our heritage. So it's steep, it's vertical, and that's the main character of our heritage site. So it seems that this place is very unsuitable for everyone. And our challenge is to respect the characteristic of this heritage site and to balance with the opportunity given by the nomination to get to know these extraordinary values and to have to make experience of these extraordinary values, not just watching on a picture, but also to touch it, to explore it for everybody. We developed several projects. Some projects are spread around the whole territory and involve the stakeholders of the whole heritage site. Some other projects are just good practice that we would like to implement with local partners, and that we try to export in all the parts of our site. For example, this is a project called Open Dolomites, Dolomiti Accessibili. That is a project that I just show you the map, where all these pins that you see on this map, and the orange border, it's the border of the heritage site. These pins are tracks, and our organization, the Dolomites Foundation, compiled a guide of these places together with mountain guides, associations involved in sports, accessibility, and disability, and we provide the details of these itineraries from the point of view of disabled people. So this association that deals with people with disability and accompanies them helped us to compile this guide in order to provide the right information. Of course, we cannot make our territory larger, suitable for accessibility. We can just try to find the right paths where people with various forms of disability can find assistance and know that the characteristic of the track, so the steepness, the largeness, the availability of services. And this is very important because it's a way to provide right information concerning the accessibility, but also concerning the property universal values. We have also the use of virtual reality to support accessibility. With the GATE project that we started in 2020, we tried to map parts of our systems, and we started with the system number 8, that is the Geopark Blätterbach. And in the visitor centers of this first park, we developed some experiences with virtual guides and using a three-dimensional headset in order to educate to the Dolomites, to bring people to have the journey around this park. We started in 2020 with this visitor center in Blätterbach, and then we spread around this experience. We have now other parks, for example, Park Adamello Brenta with a similar project. And the number of parks, we have 9 parks in the whole area. The number of parks that uses this kind of devices in the visitor center is increasing, and it's a good experience for us. Also, it's not just for people with motorial disabilities, but it's an opportunity for all to discover Dolomites. We have also other experience, and I'd like to focus on a best practice that we are collaborating with and that we would like to encourage in the whole territory. And it is called Dolomiti Open. This Dolomiti Open project is an activity that we support in collaboration with a social association that was born just following the nomination as heritage site. And the goal of this association that we are sustaining is to spread the values of the heritage site to the people with various forms of disability: sensory disability, motorial disability, cognitive disabilities. And the focus of this activity is based on building the right skills to go up in the mountains. So the activities of this project are multiple. The main focus is to stimulate people with disability to experience the mountain and visit our site accompanied by mountain guides. So the association, in collaboration with us provides education for the mountain guides and for those who accompany people. The training is based both on the value of the heritage site and also on the techniques to help people training. And these programs also includes the schools of the territory in order to create a deeper awareness of the skills necessary for spreading inclusiveness throughout the territory. So, and also during the tourist season, there are very promotional events with disabled people in order to encourage this tourism. So there's a lot of training needed. But we noticed that the stimulus given by frequenting these mountains often becomes also an element to encourage the recovery of people. There are a lot of young people coming there after accidents or other forms of
Dr. Nemela, I have to remind you the time.
Yes, I'm just at the end. And these activities become very interesting for the whole territory, and it brings a lot of people also there that are not interested in the hit and run experience of the territory, but they are deep connected to this territory. So, in conclusion, I will try to be very quick. From our experience, we noticed that the access to the heritage for us is obviously not granted to all, but we cannot eliminate the physical barriers, but we can spread in the whole community more attention to this point. So we'd like to provide adequate tools to the visitors. And first of all, give a lot of information on access. And so we need to monitor the site and try to give the right information for everybody. And at the same time, we need to spread the culture of inclusivity and the need of the community to participate, because this is not just a problem of access in the World Heritage Site, but access needs a lot of services around, like mobility, like hotel accommodation, like parking places. So all this kind of services that the territory has to give needs more culture of inclusivity. So we try to provide courses, training opportunity, and to spread this around the territory. This is our challenge. And as we know, going up to the mountains is something that everyone can do, but everybody needs to do this with a gradual approach. And the mountains have taught us that we need to go slowly, step by step, and according to each one's ability.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you. I think really this is so important what we have been hearing until now. Now we have a video from Tsunao Wanabe, Director International Partnership for the Satoyama Initiative, the IPSI. Thank you.
Good morning to you all. I'm Tsunao Watanabe, Director of the International Partnership for the Satoyama Initiative. I am grateful for the opportunity to speak at the World in Florence Festival. Today, I want to share our mission of balancing biodiversity conservation with sustainable development. The International Partnership for the Satoyama Initiative, known as IPSI, is a global network formed to support the Satoyama Initiative. The initiative promotes the idea that people and nature can coexist in harmony. We focus on socio-ecological production, landscapes and seascapes, surplus in short. These are areas where communities live closely connected to their natural surroundings and practice sustainable ways of life that benefit both people and the environment. The Satoyama Initiative emphasizes that local action, supported by diverse stakeholders, is essential to achieving biodiversity and sustainable development goals. Communities within Cyprus possess valuable knowledge and tradition that have evolved over generations. Their understanding of managing landscapes and seascapes sustainably helps maintain biodiversity while meeting community needs. I would like to briefly share one of our case studies. In Argentina, indigenous pastoral communities practice multi-species pastoralism, including the sustainable harvesting of Carmetic woods. However, the Andine region faces challenges like poverty, outmigration, and environmental degradation. Each member become received a grant from the Satoyama Development Mechanism for a sustainable wood management system project. They use traditional techniques to gently collab, shear, and release wild vicunias back into their habitat. This project embraces traditional practices and explores fair trade opportunities, making a positive impact on biodiversity and responsible production and consumption. Balancing biodiversity conservation and sustainable development requires solutions that allow for both. Multi-stakeholder engagement is key to achieving this balance. By involving communities in decision-making, they are empowered as stewards of their environments and cultural heritage. IPSI's membership includes governments, indigenous and local communities, NGOs, research institutes, and the private sector. By working together, we create inclusive policies and approaches that lead to innovative solutions well suited to local contexts. One of the cornerstones of the Satoyama initiative is the inclusion of traditional knowledge. To ensure traditional knowledge remains accessible to future generations, we focus on capacity development and knowledge sharing through workshops, publications, and collaborative projects, supporting communities to continue caring for their landscapes and seascapes. Socio-ecological landscapes and seascapes are not just about biodiversity. They also embody the identity and history of communities. Conserving these landscapes means preserving the stories and traditions tied to them, ensuring future generations can learn from and appreciate their heritage. In conclusion, the Satoyama initiative fosters a harmonious relationship between people and nature. For more information, visit our website and join us in our efforts. Thank you for your time. Together, we can build a future where cultural landscapes are not only conserved, but also thrive for generations to come.
Thank you. It is true, as Mr. von Heike was saying, that we are making a travel around the world. And probably more and more we see that there is an approach that is very similar to different parts of the world. I would say that the question of nomadism we have in Italy, we have in Africa, and certainly there are ways of life that are very similar in the different parts of the world and way of resolving. Last but not least, Professor Napoli, who will, I will ask him, Tuscan agricultural heritage is a model of resilience. Finally, we come back home. Could you share how your work in conserving this tradition contributes to climate resilience and helps communities connected more deeply with heritage by locally and globally?
It's quite complex. The connection between the agricultural resilience, the farm activities, the possibility for the farmer to get the money to maintain their own land, to maintain the resilience of their field. So try to improve the landscape, try to maintain the landscape. It's very important to let the people, the tourists, go in the field, go in the agricultural area, and so provide a source of money for the farmers to maintain the system. So what I want to show you is a brief presentation of some areas of Tuscany, so I want to discuss with you some specific areas of Tuscany that were well renowned for the tourism and for represent some aspect of Tuscany in the world. For example, the hills that are covered by vineyards and olive groves are generally considered emblematic of the typical Tuscan landscape, and this scenery reflects the extensive work done to shape the slopes, often requiring substantial leveling and terracing. And for example, in this image, you can see the Lamole area in central Chianti that is well recognized as an historic rural landscape of Italy, and is also well renowned for its vineyard and exceptional wine that attract tourists in the areas, and so make all the locality as a very iconical areas of Tuscany. So it's very important not only to enhance the resilience, maintaining this landscape to the climate change, but also serve as a powerful tool for attract tourism, and so also for the product marketing. However, the maintenance of this precious terrace of this structure is very expensive, requires significant cost and labor. So preserving the Tuscan landscape means recognizing and valuing the ongoing work of farmers who uphold this heritage. For example, in the past 5 years, I conducted 2 project with European fund for a total of 5 million euros to reconstruct and to restore the terrace land here around Florence and in the Chianti areas, and maintain this structure that are beautiful, but is very expensive for farmers. So we need to recognize their work and the cost that they withstand to maintain this beautiful structure. But while vineyards and olive groves are very emblematic for Tuscany, also the green fields, such as in the Val d'Orcia areas or in the Creti Senesi areas, are also iconic elements of the Tuscan landscape. This landscape did not originate naturally, but it was crafted by farmers over centuries through skilled agricultural practices. You have to imagine that originally all the areas was completely characterized by a bare land. So was all covered by Biancani Formation and gullies. So it was completely uncultivable and was not considered a suitable area for living. Much of this transformation was due to the work of the architect under the work of the architect Cécile Pincent in 1924, starting from 1924, who worked for the Marquis Antonio Rigo, who revitalized the area and changed completely the rural landscape, making the landscape that now is widely recognized with the wide street that cross over the hills, the cypress trees, and so on. But you have to take in mind that originally this landscape was a completely a desolated, completely abandoned areas. Till the mid of 1800, the Valdorcia and Cretese area was completely desolated, with and only starting from the end of the 1800, the Land Reclamation Consortia began to make the areas cultivable. So, creating a space for the farmer, creating an area that can be cultivated and lived. Originally, the farmers start to work in the area, the Reclamation Consortium start to work in the area with oxen pull traction, so plowing the soil with the oxen. Then, between the First and the Second World War, they start to use explosive to model the hill that were completely degraded and to make the soil cultivable. And after the Second World War till the 60s, 1960, they introduced the bulldozer to level the areas. You have to consider that at the end of the 1800, the areas was characterized by a conformation like in the bottom or in the up image on the left, while the transformation led to gentle slope that are easy to be cultivated and to fertile soil that now is recognized as one of the most productive areas for durum and Commonwealth in Italy for the production of high quality product. So agriculture is essential for climate resilience, soil conservation practices like terracing, prevent erosion and retain water, also efficient water management and biodiversity for local crop that can boost ecosystem adaptability. The carbon sequestering methods such as agroforestry that offset the greenhouse gases, while sustainable agriculture strengthens the rural economies, making them more resilient. So, in short, agriculture not only sustains but also fortifies the lands against the climate change. And in addition, to being a model of sustainability, the agricultural landscape that we have shown supports the local communities and foster a responsible tourism. Local food system rooted in agricultural diversity contribute to stable rural market and attract tourists seeking authentic agricultural experience. So this not only adds economic value to the conservation effort, but also helps to preserve the agricultural landscape as a living, sustainable heritage. So, preserving this territory not only safeguard the traditional heritage and the local agricultural system, but also can provide a model for sustainable agriculture in the future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Personally, I think it's a scoop, because we were also thinking that Valnorcia has been always in that way. So knowing that Valnorcia has been built and is like it is now because of the men, it's something that it's really a scoop. I would never imagine. I would imagine Lorenzo il Magnifico going around in those naturally gardens, and but thank you.
No, because you have to consider that at the time of Lorenzo il Magnifico, but also during the period of the Grand Duchy, all the Valdorcia and Crete Senesi area was generally avoided by the person. Person ate to transit through the Valdorcia because there was nothing. There was no people, there was not water source, so they preferred to create, to pass through a longer route than to the Valdorcia or Crete Senesi. Was completely inhabited.
Okay, we discover a new, really for me is a discovery. So we arrived to the conclusion of this first session. Actually, then I will leave you with a question, but I would say that all these different interventions, I have to thank you for this travel in the world. Remind us accessible heritage can foster connection, identity, and empowerment, especially when we prioritize inclusive approaches. I hope today's session inspires each one of us to continue finding innovative ways to make heritage a shared resource for all. Thank you for being part of this conversation, to all. And let's carry these ideas forward in our discussion throughout the World in Florence 2004. Thank you. I leave now the place to the moderator of the next session, Professor McLaren. You can use this one. This one, yes, and that is for the speakers. Yes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I briefly introduce myself? I have been working 20 years as director of an open-air museum in Belgium, Bokrijk. That was a site, 90 hectares in a larger area, natural landscape, of a park, actually, cultural landscape, of 900 hectares. We had a collection of historic buildings, rural buildings, from the 16th to the 19th, early 20th century. And my challenge was, how do you convey substantive information, make this useful for people today? Has the past a meaning, a significance for us today? This has been a fight between quality information and commercialization. I was much more interested in having received 100,000 visitors that went home with something new in their heart and in their mind. But the government wanted more. They were much more interested in 400,000, 500,000 people that spend a lot of money. They're the challenge. We're going to speak today, this morning, about relationship between economy, cultural heritage. And we have a series of eminent speakers that I would like to ask to invite to the floor. Bernhard Bauer, cultural anthropologist and consultant for tourism development, who is going to speak about Afro-African cultural heritage in New Orleans, second lines and social aid and pleasure clubs. So there we have a problem area, quality against quality. Can I ask Sara Sciafonati to speak about hospitality by B&B hotels in Italy, with the role of hospitality in the enhancement of cultural heritage? Welcome. After that, we will have Danielo Moscati and Antonio Lenti that will speak about caring for cultural heritage means caring for people. The example of the cooperative La Paranza in Naples. And finally, we'll hear Fergus McLaren, President of ICOMOS International Committee on Cultural Tourism, Canada, who will speak to us about cultural heritage tourism charter application in our field. That will be a presentation online. May I ask Bernard to take the floor and give his presentation? You will do it whatever you want.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
This is the button.
Okay.
Please use the button.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, let me thank you, grazie Lucio, grazie alla Fondazione per l'invito di questo evento. Mi sento molto onorato perché tornare a Firenze per me è qualcosa molto emozionante, perché ho passato 2 anni in questa città già un po' di tempo fa. So I thank the Lucio and the Foundation to have for this invitation, because I passed some time of my life in Florence, and coming back here is always something very emotional, because the city had some very positive impact on myself, on my private life, on my professional life. So thank you very much. As Mark said, I am from Vienna, from Austria, but I won't speak about Austria, okay? Because I'm a cultural anthropologist. And what anthropologists do is they go out of their cultural field, okay? They learn strange languages. They go to places that they don't know. They speak about communities that they don't belong to. And in the course of research, maybe they become part of the community they are researching about. So I will tell you today about a PhD research, which is not recent. I have done it almost 10 years ago, but it has been very powerful for my continuous research, for my professional career as a consultant. And so I would like to share with you some insights into the Afro-American heritage of New Orleans. Any one of you who has been there yet? New Orleans, Louisiana, USA. It's said to be the let's say northernmost city of the Caribbean. So they don't really say they are Americans; they're rather Caribbeans. Any one of you who has an idea about what second lines could be? Okay, let me first explain it with a short video. It's taken from my own ethnographic material when I was doing research there. So I give you just 2.5 minutes of impression without me speaking about it. Okay, just... So this was part of my daily life, or maybe weekly life in New Orleans, because these second lines are performed weekly on weekends, usually on a Sunday. This starts at noon, goes on until the evening. It's a parade that goes through a neighborhood, so it's a street parade. It's a community street parade, and you have also seen images of Mardi Gras Indians. So these are people who are mixed descendants of Native American Indians who are continuously investing resources and time into their Indian heritage with the costumes and with these parades that you have seen. And very often the second lines, they organize their parades together with the Mardi Gras Indians. It's not always together, but sometimes. So let's start with some more images, with some text of my presentation. Okay, this was the video. So let me quickly define the field. So I'm speaking about the commodification of culture, and this goes into how is it commodified. It's socially commodified, culturally, economically. But let's give a very short definition of what it is. It's said to be the transformation of local cultural elements into consumable and saleable products which are traded and sold for profitable exchange. Now, the term commodification very often has quite a negative connotation. And during my research in New Orleans, I actually found out, well, there is different kinds of commodification. One is beneficial, which could be said positive, and the other one is rather disadvantageous or negative connotation. This could be equivalent to exploitation, maybe. So this research, what I'm speaking today about is only this. Okay, it's only second lines, but it's actually based on a longer and a quite let's say broad and large research with regards to commodification of intangible heritage elements. And I did research on music, on festivals, on carnival parades, on voodoo and belief in the supernatural, and on second lines and Mardi Gras Indians. Now, historically based, the commodification of music is nothing new, right? Because musicians, they do music mainly because they need to survive, it's their job. So music is something that has been commodified very, very long time ago, also in New Orleans, or especially in New Orleans, because the styles of jazz, rag, R&B, soul, partly blues, these are said to originate from New Orleans. Then we have carnival parades, and these are the carnival parades that we're used to also in Europe, so the Catholic religious-based carnival parades, which in New Orleans started in the 1850s. So the commodification of these carnival parades is quite going on still for a long time. And then this music turned out into festivals, and today there is around more than 120 festivals per year, music festivals in New Orleans. Some of them are also food festivals or culture festivals. But you see that festivals which have been performed since the 1960s also have come to quite important commodification. But the commodification of the Afro-American heritage, like voodoo and belief in the supernatural, especially second lines and Mardi Gras Indians, is rather something new, because they have been, well, a bit hiding, also because of lots of racial issues, you know, in the 50s, 60s, now in the 70s, 80s, they started to publicly perform with parades, with music, and the commodification, as I intend to speak about it, actually started only recently. You see here some citations of the people that I interviewed, which said, well, commodification of culture has been always going on in New Orleans. And you see here an image of my favorite street musicians, David and Rosalind. They have been street musicians all their life. All their life they have been playing on the street. They have been making music, and I mean, actually they did a good job in living out of music all their lives. So let me speak a bit more about second lines. So second lines are street parades, as you have seen, and they started in the 18th century in the course of the so-called jazz funerals. Right? I think everybody you heard maybe something about jazz funerals. And within a funeral, the first line is the part of the mourners, so of the family who is mourning about the deceased. You have the coffin, and in the second line you have the music band, you have the dancers, and you have the neighborhood, you have the friends, you have the larger family members who are mourning. And this second line is then let's say the festive part, the celebrating part of life, while you have the mourners, which are, of course, they are sad, but the second line is the one that really turns the jazz funeral into a celebrative party. And today you would often see still participants waving with white handkerchiefs or with umbrellas, and these are the things that still come from these jazz funerals. Now, these second lines are mainly organized by social aid and pleasure clubs. And these social aid and pleasure clubs, they are neighborhood groups with members. New Orleans is quite a big city, but it's divided into lots of neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods are exclusively white neighborhoods, and even more so because population of New Orleans is 60% black, are Afro-American neighborhoods. And these neighborhoods, they started with their own clubs, and these clubs, they're actually providing social services. They're providing health insurance. They care especially about retired people, for people in need, and throughout the year they're doing fundraising events in order to, well, have money for these all insurances and social services that they need for their members. And the annual highlight of a social aid and pleasure club is organizing a second line for the neighborhood, so for the members. But another very important social service that is organized by these social pleasure clubs is that all the members will have a jazz funeral. And the cost and organization of a jazz funeral is quite very high. So this is, let's say, well, these are the things that these social aid and pleasure clubs are doing. Now here are some more images. Here you have the dancers, you have the music, the band, and then you have the neighborhood and dancing people. Afterwards, you have some more images of the dancers. You have some images of Mardi Gras Indians, which are a bit different, so I won't spend too much time on this, but it certainly takes part of the Afro-American heritage in the city. Now, in my last 30 seconds, right, let me speak about the social and economic impact. Well, as I said, the social impact is based on all the services that are provided by the social aid and pleasure clubs. Health insurance, cost and organization of jazz funerals, fundraising events, get-togethers, organization of the second lines of this annual highlight. And you see here this how the intangible cultural heritage is, let's say, the foundation of the cultural collective identity of the Afro-American communities or neighborhoods which are members of these social aid and pleasure clubs, and all these together, because they are rooted in their neighborhood, they are rooted in the city, and they build lots of trust because all these services are provided. So this community trust is, I would say, the most important social impact that these second lines actually create. With regards to the economic impact, well, every member certainly pays a certain fee to the clubs, and altogether they invest into a better life. Right? Everybody who wants to have a better life, they want to be sure, okay, when I die, I will get a jazz funeral. When I get sick, I will have health insurance. When I'm alone, I have my members, I have my neighborhood, which I can rely on because there's lots of events going on. And all this turns then out into this big economic impact, which can be subdued to the risk sharing. So this risk sharing of all these activities, well, if you would not be a member of it, you wouldn't have access to it, but this risk of having a good life, having or not so good life, actually is creating then this big economic impact. Now, I won't speak about numbers as a cultural anthropologist. Well, quantitative things and numbers are secondary to us. But just to speak a bit about, so you have an understanding about also quantitative understanding of economic impact. Well, a second line actually is very cost intensive. They would have to pay for the bands, for the music. They have to pay for the police escort. They have to pay for a permit, so for a parade permit by the city. All the money that is created through the consumption of drinks and food all the day long when the parade is going along in the neighborhood. So there's actually lots of additional quantitative impact. Now I could keep on speaking about commodification for a longer time. Maybe I won't, but you see there is a big impact of tourism now coming, and this is then going to the other topic of commodification, which I might speak maybe about when you ask questions afterwards. This is just one impression of how second lines are commodified for white tourists who are celebrating wedding second lines, which actually don't have anything to do with the Afro-American heritage, but this is the kind of tourism commodification that
Thank you very much.
I could continue speaking. Maybe you have some questions.
Yes, yes, I have. Thank you very much. You may hold the microphone as well, because of the questions. Yes, okay. Now, I think it's a very interesting presentation, because I understood that that kind of parades is so much genuine, authentic life that holds the community together. It's enormous. But as you was mentioning at the end, there is a risk of commercialization. How far can you go? When we have this morning the examples of the Apsara dances in Angkor Wat, I remember when I was there, that was very modest and authentic. It was living in the community, in a private house. Children were doing this movement. That was extraordinary. But slowly, you move to commercialization. Then the interests become different. And it will be difficult, I think, or it's a challenge, how to balance this authenticity, because we will come back to the notion authenticity later in the discussion. and that commercial impact of the challenges. Then it becomes marketing, then it becomes money, etc. And then we have a problem. What would you react to these observations?
Well, in my further research, I came to the point where I understood what or which part of this heritage is actually protected by the people, and which part is commercialized.
Yes.
So they very much differentiate between, okay, we are doing our thing, we're doing our African American neighborhood thing, and this is the white gigs, the tourism thing.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so this is where they split. Okay, the music bands, okay, they organize second lines for the tourism industry because they are musicians, so it's okay. But the clubs themselves, they only parade in their own neighborhood.
Excellent.
But they, in addition, they are protecting their own thing with intellectual property rights, because they want all the TV stations, the photographers to share their income when they take picture of the costumes, when they make registrations of the music, and things like this.
Now, when I, at the time, went to Paris, then we said, you must go to the Moulin Rouge to see the Can-Can. This is purely commercial. This has nothing to do, in my view, with French identity. There are much more other things that are reflecting specifically France than that. So that balance between quality and commerciality. On the other one, because on authenticity and non-authenticity, in a certain sense, outdated fake. These are challenges probably for the future. We will come back to it later in the general discussion. May I ask our colleague from B&B to do her presentation. May I first say that in Belgium, in Brussels, we have a problem with Airbnb. In Brussels alone, we have more than 6,000 Airbnbs. They're not fair B&Bs. In Antwerp, 2,800. And the prices for renting apartments are so going high that the local population has difficulty to rent an apartment. But what I understood from our contacts that we had, we have here quite different issue. A hosting facility that offers a kind of cultural heritage in itself, opening paths for knowledge and hosting not clients but guests to receive them and enjoy local identity. The floor is yours, madam.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to the ones that are in the floor here in the room, also the ones that are online. I would like to thank Carlotta and the Romualdo Foundation, the Bianco Foundation, all the team that supports us on a daily basis, Giorgia, Simone, that it's really a path and a journey that we start several years ago with the vision of Jean-Claude Ghiotti, our former president, together with Paolo Del Bianco, founder of the Bianco Foundation, and hosted by nowadays with Carlotta and our president and CEO, Liliana Comitini, that brings you all the greetings regarding which is the role of B&B hotels to leverage the culture inside our business model. Actually, we are here with the same vision with the foundation. We want to enhance the local heritage. We want to enhance what each destination can fulfill and give to guests, not clients, as Mark officially said, because it's really different. Give a value to the clients when they are in, and not just giving a nice place to stay. This is the difference we want to leverage to our guests and brings to the new community a value for the guest itself and for the residents of this destination, because we can bring value to each destination, not only as an economical booster, obviously, but also as an inner and ambassador of the cultural heritage. Who is B&B Hotels? B&B Hotels is a global chain. Here you can see how many hotels we develop in almost 40 years right now. We started opened the first hotel in Brest. So we opened the first hotel with the vision of our former owner that say, I want to give to the guests the best experience ever in the value for money ambient in a CSR commitment. So this is what we are. Try to give quality, a really optimal price, and open to everyone our hotels and our destination. We're now covering 17 countries, and we have the vision to grow ahead and reach 3,000 hotels by 2030. Here the picture of Italy. We are ambassador of Italy. We have love of Italy. We really believe that Italy can bring value to all the countries. Actually, we are having half guests, so half are national, half are international, coming from worldwide. Florence, attracting clients from Americas, from Middle East. I slept in the hotel here, and this morning at the breakfast, actually the breakfast room was full of Korean, Americans, French people. So all of this bring the knowledge of what we are. Okay, opening hotels, you have a key value, and it's our aim, but we build our development in bringing values to what are really connecting people and connecting to inner and external stakeholders. So smart simplicity, being very clever in what we offer, no more, no less. Improvement. We try to improve ourselves and our product on a daily basis, finding new solutions and bringing to the client the opportunity to live the essential. Integrity. We want to be really realistic and link to what we deliver. Empathy. We open our hotels to everyone and we respect the diversity. And inclusion. We're really open to bring a new and open information to the client. On top, our brand attributes, comfortable beds and modern design help the guests to restore themselves and able to go in the destination and discover the destination itself for its magnificency. Digital aspect. It's important to deliver to the guest, to our internal guest, the best experience ever, delivering content in a digital way. And warm welcome. This is made as a first item. We welcome our guests with a smile, giving the insight of what it is inside the destination and bringing value to all the destination we are in. Obviously, being a global company, we are committed to CSR. So we promote sustainable tourism, we enhance local economic development, and encourage the education. And more on that, we try to investigate on each destination, giving tips for what they can see and what they can discover, like really not the best, all the best destination give popular hints, but there are secret places that can be discovered, and we try to commit on that. Local everywhere, it's one of our key pillars, and we preserve this by giving to the interior design a local touch. And for the local touch, we just bring value to the destination and to the community, try to buy and have suppliers that are local. So local bakeries, local farmers bring to our breakfast, for instance, product, and bring to the guest the opportunity to taste the local flavor. On top, we developed the e-concierge app, which is a modern and super efficient tool that brings to the client the opportunity to discover the location, the festival, related to what you were saying before. So giving the hints of what it is local, festival, handcraft, museum, special edition. And thanks to the partnership with Luoghi Parlanti that we built and we tried to develop on our app, we discovered the destination in a different way, giving to the guest the opportunity to live like a local. So through the NFC and the QR code, all the guests can discover, as I said, the popular hints, the popular monuments and the popular events, but also the secret one, and enter in a very localism and pursue that we would like to reinforce this as a new items to discover and be linked to the community. In conclusion, we try to be ambassador of each destination. Ambassador, together with Luoghi Parlanti and Life Beyond Tourism, of a different tourism, overpassing the over-tourism, try to overcome and make the people discover new identities and secret place in order to maintain the heritage, maintain this for the guests that are arriving today, but furthermore for the new generation to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah, I have a question, if I may.
Excuse me, in the mic, please.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I have a question. The competition must be very hard. How do you tackle it? What is your message on the, let's say, in promoting your approach, which is valuable, which I support 200%, but it must be very hard. How do you do it?
Thank you, Mark, for the question. It's hard, I tell you, but we keep the focus on our value, being value for money, and be always attractive, and in the first place in proposing promotion, in proposing rate that can be acquired by all the guests. In fact, our guests are coming from backpackers, students. We have senior, business, leisure. We are couple, families. All of them have different needs. So we try to reply to these needs with the appropriate promotion, with the appropriate offer. And on top of that, also we give to our clients and our guests multitasking opportunity on the web. We launch our BME program. Is a program that permits to our client to have, for instance, 50 euros in the first 3 months of new opening hotels. So this is really opening rate that can be affordable for everyone. So we compete on the market, giving quality, always high quality, but at the best price. And this makes the difference on the market and permits us to open our door to all clients in the world.
Thank you. That's very interesting. We'll be coming back to that issue when we're in the discussion we will confront the hosting facilities against the tourist industry. But that's for in a few minutes. I would like to give the floor now to Daniel Enrico Moschetti and Antonio Lendi with a very interesting initiative, revival of fishing traditional way of doing in near Napoli. So I'm very anxious to know, because I have a few questions in mind already. So please.
So, hi everybody. At first, we would like to thank you, the Fondazione del Bianco, to invite us here, Giorgio and Simone to provide us all the comfort to be here today, and of course all of you for the attention. So, I'm not really starting. I prefer to pass the word to my colleague Antonio to start, and then you will get all the line of our discussion. So, thank you.
Right. Hi. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Antonio. Thank you for having us here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Antonio. I come from the city of Naples, and specifically I come from Rione Sanità, a neighborhood in the city of Naples. And to really understand what we do, we actually have to go way back, about 2,000 years, more or less, to the foundation of the Greek city of Naples, and when Rione Sanità wasn't really a neighborhood yet, it was more the of the city of Naples. Actually, it was outside the city walls, and so the Neapolitans would go there to make cemeteries, basically. And that's the reason why still today we are filled with archaeological sites, with Greek hypogeums, with early Christian catacombs, most importantly. And one very cool thing is that we had 6 early Christian catacombs in the city of Naples. So at least 6 tombs of saints in this area. So at least 6 reasons for the Christian community of Naples and surroundings to go there and pray, basically. So this was basically an open worship place. Christian communities of Naples and surroundings would see that as a pilgrimage place. They would go there to pray on the tomb of each saint, and that would be the function of that area, let's say, an open worship place. In time, then, this function was lost eventually. Throughout the centuries, the graveyard was forgotten. The neighborhood was lost throughout times, and eventually became a populated area. Then it became a noble neighborhood of the city of Naples, actually. So rich in history was the neighborhood on the middle of the way to the royal palace of Capodimonte. So kings and popes and cardinals would pass through the neighborhood when they were going from one royal palace to the other. Basically, aristocracy chose this neighborhood to live in. And all of this was stopped eventually as well. In the beginning of the 1800s, a huge bridge was built on top of the neighborhood in French domination of Naples. This bridge was built connecting the city center to the royal palace of Capodimonte in a quicker way. As a counter effect, though, the neighborhood was completely cut out of the life of the city. It was cut out of the urban fabric, of the social fabric of the city, and it became poorer and poorer throughout times. Basically, much sooner than other urban areas in Europe, it became a place without any hope. Basically, a place from which young people wanted to escape. Poorer and poorer throughout times. A place for crime to thrive in, actually. A place to avoid by everybody, by the same Neapolitans, actually. And it has been like this for many decades, for 2 centuries, more or less, until yesterday. Honestly, not even 10 years ago, the Rione Sanità was seen as a place to avoid. Nobody would go to it, basically. But all of this changed then in the last 20 years. From 2001, more or less, in our neighborhood came Father Antonio Loffredo as the parish priest of the district. We call him our visionary priest, as he brought a new vision into our community. He started this thing that we call education to beauty. To do this, he used what might seem a simple tool, but it was a very powerful tool, which was traveling. with the young community of the neighborhood, the young kids of the neighborhood that had maybe never been out of the sanitary district or Naples. He started bringing them all around Italy, all around Europe, maybe just seeing Rome for one day or Firenze for a couple of days, I don't know. But the point is that coming back from these trips, these kids would have never been the same. That they would now ask, why not here? Why not in my home where we have, I don't know, testimony of the early Christian communities in the ancient city of Naples, just to say one thing. And those kids then decided to take care of their cultural heritage. And Father Antonio did something very, very simple, yes, but very powerful as well, which was to trust us. He trusted us. He actually gave us the keys of the church, basically. And we took management of the catacombs for the first time. In 2006, our cooperative was born, founded by 5 kids of the neighborhood, around 18, 20 years old. Basically, they took management of this archaeological site. They cleaned it up, they put some lights in, and they opened it to the public for the first time ever. They would play to be touristic guides, actually, in these archaeological sites, bringing a very powerful message into a very powerful, positive message into our community for the first time, basically. I'm gonna now lead the floor to Daniele. Thank you very much for the attention.
Okay, so I'm going to try to make it short to respect the time. So, what Antonio just explained to you is a 200 years long story that now is just synthesized in a cooperative, La Paranza Cooperative, that, as you can see, if started with 5 workers, but more than workers, we have to talk of volunteers, reopening the cultural sites of the neighborhood and taking care at first for themselves, as first users of the cultural heritage. We can talk about what the Faro Convention enshrine, talking about heritage community, we can say. And so then we really grew up. For example, nowadays we are 70 full standard time workers. The average age of us is 33 years old, and the 72% is under 35, just to let you know who we are, we can say. And the best part of it is that the 50% of the workers came from the educational center born thanks to the cooperative and all the other cooperatives of the Rione Sanità system. Because the target of our operation is not only reopening cultural sites, but to use the cultural sites to build up a sort of welfare net, we can say, where the welfare doesn't exist, or better, never existed, we can say. So, going on, these are just the weapons, we can say, that we use to just do our everyday work. At first, we used the cultural heritage as a sort of tool to manage the counter effect of gentrification on one side, of course, because even Naples is living a strong phenomena of gentrification, but even as a sort of social inclusion process. We put the people, the community of the Sanità district at the center of the decision of cultural heritage decisions. And so it's not a sort of gentrificated process of tourism, because the same community living in the area are the ones choosing the type of tourist they want. And so it's maybe the best way to live really a true touristic experience that's good for the inhabitants and even for the other ones. Then we use, as I said, these tools for the mitigation of gentrification process. And the essence of all of these is our youth-driven initiatives. As you have seen before, the age of the people working for La Paranza Cooperative, we are everyone young. But maybe it's the only way to get the tourism work really well. Because the young of a community, the adults then needs to manage since the starting, since the beginning, all the touristic process. So, what made all of these decisions? The restitutions. So we have reopened back in only the Sanità district 8 archaeological and historical sites that compares to 14,000 square meters of cultural heritage that are really fundamental for the people, because they're not living them only as interesting places as touristic places or cultural places, but are really the roots of the identity in our territory, and so they see themselves reflected inside the system of the cultural heritage in the Rione Sanità. And so that's why caring for cultural heritage for us means caring for people, because the cultural heritage and the community living this cultural heritage are the same, are both two faces of the same metal. And so if you care for the cultural heritage, it means that you're caring even for the people living in and for the cultural heritage. So in conclusion, thank you for your attention, thank you for your time and dedication, and of course we are here for every single curiosity. Thank you, really.
Thank you, Daniele and Enrico. May I ask you, the revival of the community through its heritage, was it prior to tourism or was it a consequence after increased tourism?
Well, it's a sort of two different line process. Because initially we have the community that wanted to have a sort of voice in the city of Naples, and this voice could pass through the cultural heritage, as Father Antonio told us.
Yes.
And then they even realized that reopening, even more than the place, because if you come to visit us in the Rione Sanità, you can see that's like a sort of valley outside Naples and cut it out from the rest of the city. They need to open the minds. And so when the people have seen the other ones, not as invaders, we can say, but like visitors that could then tell your story to the rest of the world, that changed completely the vision. And so we can say, yes, at first the cultural heritage, then the tourism, but at first the community.
That's excellent, because in the rare cases that tourism is created and then heritage is created as well. So, but here it's very genuine. I have a last speaker today, Fergus McLaren from Canada, who will join us. He's president, chairman of the International Committee, ICOMOS Committee on Cultural Tourism. He has reworked the version of 76/99 into a version that has been adopted in Bangkok in 2022, I think. Fergus, am I right? Let me first excuse myself for the problems of communication that I had with you prior to this meeting due to technical problems with my computer. Sorry for that. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay. So, first off, it's for those of you that have Florence, of course, this place is very familiar. And I wanted to start with this as an anecdote fact that, of course, the books sort of about the Vecchio and Rule and other fine monumental heritage, like they did see other places in the city. There's a lot of intangible cultural heritage as well that celebrates the food, the music, the arts, the culture, and various aspects where people draw benefits from various forms of local community and development. And the part of my favorite part, the south place of the world, is also one of the places that really would like to seclude the food culture about parts of city. And I think that it's a really important way to convey the fact that there are many layers of psychology development and opportunity that the communities can experience. And this is what I want to show to my presentation. So, just to make sure I get that, I'll move to the second slide. Okay, we had some of the fundamental like economic challenges. I can see that there are four major ones that are there in terms of what communities are trying to deal with. They're trying to garner or earn the bet with much like Holland people other places at Florence. They're trying to do in order to ensure there's a broad-based community economic development from tourism. One of the first ones is supply side controls, and that, I mean, one of those issues where you've had actual promotion of touristic activities, whether it's hotels, amenities, services, and how that does actually become accrued by that visibility. And that's what they call zero-dollar tourism, which is starting to work in some parts of the world, notably the food sector, where all parts of the supply chain, whether it's transport, whether it's hotels, whether it's food, any other restaurants, they are all of the chain by a company in the country. And that, in some ways, or by many ways, has a limitation on the body and burning that we generate by our own communities. The second point was within this, I call it leakage. Again, foreign income flows, where is that money going, where it is going. And in some ways, you're seeing bigger chains that emerge in very well-known destinations. Certainly see an example here where if you Google Starbucks chart, you see many examples where the company has integrated itself into the local clubbing rarity given the site. But in a way that maybe is more competitive and sort of pushes out some smaller, more local historical types of food and search the rares and that region. So again, I think maybe used to be a real problem where it's a very good destination as it evolves a commercial entity. We could add the guard because of this competition. Reds, which can be very expensive in central downtown cores of the heritage areas, and marketing and the reputation elements of it are well. It can sometimes be loaded for smaller local businesses to participate within these local minister economies. And while there's that marketing competition, the rear competitors, again, this is sort of caught into the courts, and the locals and businesses are controlled some of the others are artisans and manufacturers and labs that are influenced. You're always immediately as their challenge or agreeing against those that are organized when it comes to marketing or how they do your national presence. So this is sort of a constant sort of challenge to try and maintain that effective solid base.
So, as Mark kind of said, in 2022 in Bangkok, we had our third iteration of the ICOMOS Cultural Tourism Charter ratified. And we put up front, within our first principle, to place cultural heritage protection and conservation at the center of responsible cultural tourism planning and management. So again, really focusing on cultural heritage, but I should note, as you saw from the first slide, that we're talking about both tangible and intangible cultural heritage. And the main thing is we want to ensure that, the revenues that are generated through this type of form of tourism helps to both conserve cultural heritage, which is sort of the work that we do, so of course we are supporting that, but more importantly, to also provide benefit to local communities. We want to ensure that the communities that are involved and whose heritage we are celebrating and presenting, they actually derive benefit from it on a sustainable long-term basis. One of the things that it's important to note is that within the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, there are three targets specifically related to tourism, 8.9, 12B, and 14.7, as well as 11.4, which deals with cultural heritage. But the main one to focus on is that target 8.9 is by 2030, devise and implement policies to promote sustainable tourism, which creates jobs, promotes local culture and products. And again, this is something that we've taken very seriously with our charter. Now, in terms of the charter's application, we have done a number of elements that have supported different forms of cultural tourism, but at the same time deriving economic benefit from that as well. Just four that are here, we have developed in conjunction with UN Tourism an accessibility standard for cultural heritage sites. One of the things is that it is one of the growing sectors within the overall tourism framework, and we feel that there's a way we use the charter to instill the development of the framework that helps to support these guidelines that were developed by UN Tourism. We have also worked with the Organization of World Heritage Cities, 300 cities around the globe that are dealing with various aspects of sustainability, whether it is environmental, social, cultural, and of course economic. And this was also developed as a way to respond to the challenges that were presented by COVID. We also have a unique site in Bulgaria called Buzluja. This is an old communist site near the Black Sea, and we helped to develop a sustainable cultural tourism plan that included economic development functions, that included the creation of this festival as to support an initiative to celebrate and promote the site for alternative uses. And finally, we've also seen governments have actually implemented this as part of their cultural tourism planning and management policy because they see it as a useful structure that helps to support various aspects of economic development, among other elements. And this includes the governments of Philippines and Colombia, as well as the island of Mallorca in Spain. Just as an example of how it can be applied within a sort of more specific context, a colleague of mine, Pankaj Manchanda, who is an ICTC colleague, also has developed something that is referred to as Traveler, which is an online platform that can be accessed by mobile phones. And basically what it does is that it shows people around different sites, giving sort of consistent, solid guidance in terms of the interpretation, heritage, and different aspects of World Heritage sites like the Taj Mahal, Hanuman's Tomb, Qutb Minar, and 11 other sites that are involved within the Indian World Heritage ecosystem. In terms of economic development, once you have left the site or around the periphery or buffer zone of the site, there are still traditional craftspersons, theater, arts, food, music, and to support local economic development and through the application of different facets of the charter to support the planning and management of the app. He has basically used it in a way so that the app can now guide people from the site to different sort of tangible and intangible cultural heritage artisans, food purveyors, arts venues, music venues, so that when you are going to visit these high-profile World Heritage sites and places, you have a chance afterwards to support the local crafts and activities that sustain the overall heritage fabric of the site and the area, as well as the people who live there. So, in conclusions, there are 4 points I wanted to raise. I think that, there's a need to support the development and implementation of forward-looking tourism policies, whether it's through technology, whether it's through working with different sort of partnerships, celebrating different aspects of the city as they do with Enjoy Respect Firenze in Florence. Again, looking at a way to support that economic development in a sustainable and resilient manner. The second point is to encourage broad stakeholder engagement in the tourism policy process. Of course, there are different stakeholders that we have, whether they're operators, governments, communities, tour operators, craftspeople. There's a whole range of elements where you need to engage them within the overall sort of aspects to ensure where the issues are, where the challenges may be, and how people can actually contribute. Because at the end of the day, not everyone is aware where those opportunities may be. Thirdly, to bolster coordination and delivery structures at the destination level. Again, sometimes that can be a supply chain question. And by that I mean, are you buying locally? Who are your suppliers? What areas or elements do you have where you can promote local crafts, local foods, and retain those traditions that are integral to the cultural heritage of that community in that region. And finally, to maintain distinctive tangible and intangible cultural heritage features. There are many destinations that are out there at the country, regional, municipal, and other level, and it's one of the things that people travel to a place like Florence or elsewhere in the world where there are unique aspects that they want to see, appreciate, and enjoy that are not commodified, that mean something to that place's heritage, to its history, and as a way, using approaches like the Charter as a structure to both plan, manage, and monitor tourism that occurs there, and ensuring that you have that local economic benefit in mind in the way you develop your plans, policies, and programs to ensure that there's that sort of consistency, sustainability, and resiliency. So that being said, molto grazie, and thank you very much for having me this morning, and I think I actually made it under 10 minutes for a change.
Thank you, Fergus. In my closing remarks, some of your points will come back. There was also a presentation programmed about the impact on the film industry in increasing visits of sites. The lady unfortunately cannot attend, so this has been skipped from the program. Still, may I do one personal testimony about films? My open-air museum at the time had, as I said, houses of the 16th, 17th, 18th century. And in the beginning, we may have had 80,000 visitors. From the moment a film was made, with the museum as a decorum, the number of visitors augmented with 300%. That was enormous. And I remember when I saw, perhaps many of us have seen that film, Romeo and Juliet from Franco Zeffirelli. In the beginning, the prince on the square, he said, 3 civil brawls by you, old Capulet, and Montague have thrice disturbed the quiet of our streets. Hear the sentence of your moved prince. I've been looking for these places. I went to the church. I was looking for the church where the lady was going in between Romeo and Juliet in that little church, where she was offered money. She said no, and then she took it. I found that church. But I had to go for a while looking. Tuscania, 12th century. It was also, I was so charmed by Lost in Translation, seeing the background of Tokyo. I said, I must go back to that city. It's such a wonderful city. So it works. It's a question of doses. What prevails, action or background? Or do we find an equilibrium? Now, I would like to have my slides as a framework for some observations. It must be because it's helpful for explaining. Anyway, I can start already. There is on the one hand side, left, we have the tourist industry, the producers who offering tourist offerings to their clients. We said we should consider them as guests, not as mere clients. In the margin we have the building industry that invests in heritage-rich sites. We have several cases in Belgium where these buildings raise and the amount of money to buy and to rent is very high. And there are other businesses, some of them are difficult to accept. And there is, of course, the alternative bed and breakfast that was presented by Sarah. But on the right-hand side, which I'm still looking for, are our communities. And I would say our communities and our cultural landscape is something that we inherit from the past, full of heritage resources, but we inherit the cultural landscapes. And we are owners of it, and we are responsible for its further development. And we want this development be sustainable. That means keeping the resources at our disposal, just to build on it, because development includes change. We can't afford it. We don't freeze. We change. We grow. Now the structure of that society, that cultural landscape, are interrelated elements, and the physical environment, and the social environment, culture, and economy, economic development, business, etc. Also crafts, they're part of it. Now they're all together shape, yes, there we are. All together they shape the identity of the place. And in the middle, we have a platform for sustainable development where we should meet. A meeting place where all the stakeholders should have their position and their responsibility. We have a shared responsibility. It has been said so many times, but it's a reality. And at the bottom, it is a question of ethics about our future and our life today. So decisions are to be made and action is to be undertaken. Now, important is that in that right-hand side, we have to market ourselves. That means in our museums, in our heritage resources, we have a message to convey to the world. And we live in a competitive world. Not only cultural heritage tourism, but there is physical tourism, there's all kinds of tourism. But we have to position ourselves, and we have a message. And we know that everything we do has an impact on the whole comprehensive reality of our living environments. I would like to make a small excursion, if I may. We always think in terms of economy, in marketing terms, financial terms. But if I may go back to this living community, this cultural landscape, it is a home. It is in Greek, an oikia. An oikia that needs rules for housekeeping. In fact, we're talking about economia, oikonomia, the Greek word, but it reflects on the whole complex reality. It's not only financial economy, it's the economy, the rules of housekeeping of the whole society. And here, quality control is going to be important. Quality has to do with quantity as well. And we have to face the carrying capacity on the one hand of the sites, and we need their skills for site management, visitors management. It's very complex. And as former director of ICROM, I can tell you that conservation management, preventive conservation management, curative is a skill. I will have to build capacity in the local communities to keep their heritage resources following scientific methodologies. The most important, however, in my view, is the center after marketing. We have hardware that are our heritage resources, the hotels with their accommodations, the restaurants, the shops, everything is part of that identity. And we're going to present them to our clients, to our guests. But they are software of the value. The values are software, beliefs, social structure, etc., etc. And these backgrounds have to become foreground in our heritage interpretation and presentation, as it was said earlier. Now, the question was raised by Henk this morning. What is our narrative? What are we going to tell the world? Munir Bushnaki said yesterday, the stones speak, but I think the stones need a little bit of help to let them speak. Therefore, that heritage interpretation and presentation is so important. May I go to an example that I've been guiding, accompanying tourists groups in Russia. I've been there 45 times. And I remember in the palaces in St. Petersburg, there are two Leonardos, two. A mass coming slowly, slowly, slowly in front of the painting, a kick and a click, a selfie, and they put it on Facebook. Now, has there been a narrative? No. Do these people understand the message of Leonardo? No. Therefore, that information is important to be conveyed. Now, there is also the authenticity. Authenticity, you see it. It is important, and I would interpret authenticity not in the physical maintenance of physical reality. As the NARA conference said, authenticity is the truthfulness and the reliability of the resources for the backgrounds that they present. And if we present our sites, we are not going to simplify, we're not going to stereotypify, we're not going to make fakes, we're going to give authentic, reliable sources of information that we want to see as sources for these backgrounds. Now, I would like to come back to these communities there. We may have thought in the past, oh, this is one beautiful community. It is not. It is a mosaic of different cultures and subcultures, each having their own cultural heritage that in many cases is a stone of contention, and that we try to turn into an opportunity to meet, for dialogue. And if we can come with this strategy to at least peaceful cohabitation, that is what the foundation is doing. And possibly to symbiosis, where both cultures can communicate and can grow into a certain direction, shared by everybody that is present. And there, I'm looking now to my colleague, cultural anthropologist, we have a whole list of issues that we all human beings we have in common, but we are implementing them in a different way. And that is, in my view, colleague, if I'm wrong, correct me, is an opportunity to identify commonalities and differences that may bring us to bridges. Is the story finished? No. We have to, after this series of festivals, with a tremendous amount of what we saw incredibly large, enormous, different. And we are all human beings, living somewhere in an environment, living environment, in a cultural landscape. So, for the future, maybe I want to try to refine these methodologies of interpretation and presentation, including all elements for the future. This may be one of the challenges, and we can use what we are doing here in this foundation. We can use this in our living environments to bring the different societies and sub-societies together. As it has been done yesterday, we saw it in the presentation how foreigners are introduced in London, different cultures are met in London, structures are being set out to make it happen. Thank you very much.